Hello everybody, we are back here on the Hunter Call of the Wild. I just got done watching the brand new EW stream and there has been some pretty insane changes revealed today. The first thing that Jaxie Beard talked about today was that he clarified a little bit more on what the 4570 buff is going to be. It's not necessarily going to be like a flat damage increase or anything like that. It's going to be less bullet drop and more penetration. You know, the gun's going to have a lot more velocity. We're going to be able to hit our target more accurately at long range, which is honestly a really good change for the 4570. I'm a little bummed that it didn't get a power increase, but it is what it is. This is still an improvement over what it was before. After he talked about that, he showed off one of the brand new features, which is being able to skin your binoculars, which is honestly a really cool thing. It's nice to get a little bit more personalization and customization to the game, as we got that with the weapons. So it's cool that they've moved it over to not only the tents and the blinds a few updates ago, but now the binoculars as well. I can only hope that eventually we get customization on stuff like the ATVs, the scopes, maybe even collars. Like, if we could skin everything in the game, I'd be happy. But let's be honest, I'm already happy with having binoculars and the guns and tents and stuff. So if they stop now, it'd still be a really good thing, but I would like to see more stuff get this feature in the future. He also talked about all of the different animals that are going to be getting class changes, and we're going to pop a screenshot up right now of the moment that he showed off all of them, because there's a lot of changes that we're going to have to go over real quick that are quite substantial changes. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about, because I know all of you are going to notice this, they don't even have red deer or chamois or feral goat on here, which are all ones that have been talked about quite often for potential ones that need changes. Same with axis deer. There is no axis deer on here. I really think axis deer need to be moved up to class 4 because of the fact that they did get a lot of changes in the last couple years. They've been increased in size. They got a model rework. They very much should be a class 4, and that was not a change they did here. They also didn't do red deer to class 7, as a lot of people in the community have been wanting. And the way Jaxie explained it is because of the fact that elk are one of the things being moved down to class 7, it wouldn't make sense to move red deer up to class 7 because they're smaller than elk, but I personally think that they should still be a class 7. I think red deer should get moved to class 7. So many people use stuff like the 300 Magnum on them in real life, so it feels weird that you can't do that in the Hunter Call of the Wild. And now, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe the 300 getting moved down to like a class 6 to 9 rifle or a 6 to 8 rifle in the future instead of red deer getting changed, but I feel like one of those changes needs to happen if we want to reach a more realistic state, because let's be honest, 300 Magnum's a very popular round in real life. It's used on so many different animals. Even stuff like whitetail deer are hunted with a 300 Magnum decently often. And stuff like a wild boar or a feral pig, you would 100% be using a 300 Magnum on. So I really don't understand why we don't have either the 300 being a lower class or the red deer being a higher class, because honestly, out of those two things that I just talked about, I do think the 300 being changed to class 6 to 9 would probably make the most sense out of those two options, the more I'm talking about it right here. Because there's a lot of animals that should be huntable with the 300. But I get it, they do this for balance, but sometimes I feel they should move to a more realistic side of things with some of these weapons, because currently there's just some guns that don't get used a lot, and then there's other guns that should be used on certain species that don't get used on them. At this point, I'm just ranting, but let's move on. We got to get to the rest of these class changes. So the animals that have been changed, as you can see, is Bobcat is now class 2, Mexican Bobcat is class 2, Peccary are class 3, which is a very interesting change. Pronghorn to class 3 might be my least favorite change on this entire list. I mean, they were already annoying enough to hunt with them being moved to a nighttime drink time, so now we also can't use the 308 or the 7mm or the 303 or any of those rifles on Pronghorn anymore. We're going to have to use stuff like the Mosin, the 243, the 22 250, etc. I don't get why they did that. I have no clue why Pronghorn are class 3 now. It makes no sense to me, but it is what it is. And then Wild Boar going from class 4 to 5 and Feral Pigs going from 4 to 5. I think that's an okay change. Same with Bighorn going to class 5, though I probably would have left them at 4. Rooster deer and mule deer from 6 to 5. I think that's an okay change. Again, I don't think they necessarily needed to be moved, but I'm not too mad about that one. Now, Grey Wolf and Iberian Wolf up to class 6. I don't know if I would have done that either because they're already really easy to kill. but it's another one where it really doesn't change anything too much. I think the only thing that's really going to change there is you'll be able to use different shotgun ammo on them than before, but it's not going to change the rifles that we would use on either of the wolves. And then these are a couple of the more interesting ones. Gemsbok are now class 6 instead of class 8, so we can no longer use the 300 or the 338 on them, which means it's going to take a lot longer for a Gemsbok to die. It's going to feel more like when we're hunting a red deer. They're just going to run, and run some more before they die. As for Sandbar going to class 7, it is more realistic if we look in terms of what they would be like in real life, I suppose, but the problem is Sandbar deer in the Hunter Call of the Wild are already kind of weak. They die pretty quick to your average 308 round or your 303, so I don't know if they needed to be moved up to 7. However, I mean, I'm not going to complain at a chance to use the 300 on another animal. Now, Rocky Elk and Roosevelt Elk going down to class 7 is another interesting one. This is probably going to be a somewhat popular thing just because people will be able to use the Mosin on them, which, while I probably wouldn't recommend using the Mosin on them a ton as it's kind of a lower class rifle, but it definitely could be fun to take the Mosin out occasionally and hunt some elk. I think this is a fine change, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a gameplay difference aside from the Mosin being used on them. And then the last three are ones that are going to be a bit more popular, I think. These are probably going to be some of the most popular changes of any of these. American alligators are now class 7, so we can finally use the larger rifles on alligators, which is huge. And the same for saltwater crocodile. They're now a class 8. So, like, their toughness isn't going to change. The guns you can use on them isn't going to change. However, they are class 8 now, which is a bit more accurate to how tough they are, I would say. And grizzly bears from 7 to 8 is another change that was definitely needed, as the grizzlies are quite a bit larger than, say, your black bear. And black bear are actually the next thing that we're going to be talking about. The black bear have got a bit of a change, and it's actually a pretty substantial change. And there are some complications that come with this. So they have changed the drink time for black bear, which means they're no longer going to be drinking from 20 to 0. They're going to drink from 4 to 8, I believe. I think 4 to 8 is what they said in the live stream. And this is going to be a pretty substantial change to grinding black bear. And even just hunting them. You no longer have to go into the nighttime to be able to find black bear in their drinking time. But the thing that worries me a little bit about this, and not necessarily for myself, as I'll probably be able to deal with it pretty quickly, but they've opted not to do a population reset on black bear. So there are a few complications that come with this. The way Jax explained it was they didn't want to inconvenience players by resetting black bear. Since so many people have black bear grinds going, so many people are hunting for black bear great ones, they didn't want to ruin everybody's grinds. So instead they decided to not pop reset. But because of that, now all of your bears that were from before the update are still going to be drinking at the old time until you kill them. Once you kill those bears, they will respawn, and the respawns will be using the brand new time. So in order to get the bears to be at the new time, you have to go through and kill all of them. Now, I could definitely see this being a pretty big advantage if you're doing a bear grind and you know like what you're doing with your bears. But if you're just the casual player that doesn't watch YouTube, doesn't watch Twitch, you're going to be so confused as to where your bear respawns are going. So I'm conflicted on this, because for people like myself, this is going to be a big advantage because I can just only shoot the bears that I have as my like main shooters in my zones. I can just shoot those and then they'll be the only ones at the new time. But like if you're a brand new player, or if you're just a player that plays casually and doesn't hop on YouTube and watch videos about updates, then you're going to be very confused when you go to the old time, you start hunting the bears, and then they just slowly start disappearing because they're no longer drinking at that time, they're drinking at the new time. And the other thing there is people might go looking for them in the new time and not realize that you have to shoot the old ones first to get them at the new time. Ones where there really is no win. If you reset the populations, everybody's grinds get completely reset. If you don't reset the population, there's going to be a lot of confused players out there. I honestly think they probably should have done a pop reset, because it would affect less people than what is about to go down. So I don't know. I definitely would have done a pop reset with this, but again, it's not my game, so I guess this is what they thought would be the better choice. And I suppose this saves me from having to restart my grind completely. Now, another pretty substantial thing is they have finally fixed the accuracy on all of the rifles. Now, Jaxie didn't go into like a ton of detail here, but we did talk about this a little bit in a previous video, but not to the extent that we're going to now because we got a little more info on it. They have completely fixed the accuracy on all the rifles that needed it. And Jaxie said that it was a full rework to something along the lines of how the guns shoot or how the accuracy works. And apparently it was a pretty big change to make. And it almost, from what he said, didn't make it into the update. So that's nice that all of the guns are fixed with accuracy, because if you didn't know, a lot of guns were shooting slightly to the right. There was a few guns that shot like way to the side, like one of the muzzleloaders. I can't remember which one, but there was a lot of accuracy issues pre-update, and it looks like that's all going to be fixed now. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is that they did show off the speed loaders. Jaxie finally showed up the speed loaders for all the revolvers, and I saw a lot of people pointing out in chat that they're not actually speed loaders, they're moon clips. I've never heard of a moon clip. I've only heard of speed loaders. I've only seen people use speed loaders with revolvers. And who knows? Maybe I've seen a moon clip and I just thought it was a speed loader. But apparently they're not really speed loaders. They're moon clips. Either way, it's going to make it so you can reload your revolver so much faster. It is really going to be a game changer for the revolvers because they're going to be a lot more useful now. Before, like if you shot all of your bullets out, you'd have to reload every single one of them one by one. And now you can just, in one motion, boom, it's loaded. It's going to be a good change, and I can see handguns being a lot more useful now. But that's all we have to talk about this time around. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you got all the info you wanted. And if you haven't already subbed to the channel, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace!